The metal doors of the Nexus Prime Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss, and Captain Jake Morrison stepped inside with measured steps. Behind him walked Ambassador Lisa Carter, her diplomatic case held firmly in her right hand. The chamber stretched out before them like a vast arena, with curved walls that seemed to reach up forever into shadows above. 12 different alien species sat arranged in a perfect circle around the center of the room. Each delegation occupied a raised platform designed to accommodate their unique physical needs. The Ceridians lounged on heated stone slabs, their scaled bodies reflecting the amber lighting. The Luminals floated within containment fields that kept their energy forms stable in the atmospheric mixture. The Hive Collective representatives stood motionless in perfect synchronization, their compound eyes tracking every movement. Ambassador Veltar of the Hegemony Alliance gestured with one of his 4 arms toward 2 simple chairs placed in the center of the circle. His translator device converted his clicking speech into flat, emotionless words that echoed through the chamber. The human delegation may be seated. Lisa Carter walked to her chair without hurry. She had made this walk dozens of times over. The past 3 years. Each time she had hoped for something different. Each time she had left with nothing but empty promises and conditional offers that demanded more than they gave. Jake Morrison remained standing behind his chair, his eyes moving slowly from one alien face to another. He had served as military escort for these negotiations since they began, and he had watched his diplomat colleague endure insult after insult with professional grace. Council. Prime Zexani rose from his elevated throne. The ancient ethereal being appeared as little more than flowing robes and glowing eyes, but his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. The Galactic Council reconvenes to address the persistent requests of the human species for sovereign recognition and territorial rights. Lisa Carter placed her diplomatic case on the small table beside her chair and opened it with deliberate care. Inside lay 3 years' worth of documentation, proposals, compromise offers, and legal precedents. She had studied galactic law more thoroughly than most alien lawyers. She had learned 17 different languages to communicate directly with council members. She had crafted arguments that should have convinced any reasonable governing body. Honorable Council Prime, Lisa began, her voice steady and clear. Humanity respectfully requests final consideration of our proposal for sovereign status. We seek only recognition of our right to govern our home system and the 17 worlds. Our people have colonized through their own efforts. Delegate Quinder of the Aquatic Coalition made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. The human speaks of rights as if primitive species possess such concepts. Rights are earned through demonstrated capability and cultural maturity. We have demonstrated both, Lisa replied. Human colonies have achieved self-sufficiency. Our trade relationships benefit all participating species. Our technological contributions have advanced several fields of galactic science. Under proper guidance, interrupted Commander Craigton of the Ceridian Defense Force, his massive reptilian form shifted on his heating platform. Human achievements exist only because superior species have provided direction and oversight. Jake Morrison felt his jaw tighten, but he remained silent. Military personnel did not speak in diplomatic proceedings unless directly addressed. That rule had been made very clear during his briefings. Council member Tiskra of the Silicon Syndicate projected holographic data into the center of the chamber. Human industrial output serves galactic needs efficiently. Human adaptability makes them suitable for operations in diverse environments. These qualities support continued client status under appropriate supervision. Client status is not what we seek, Lisa said. We seek the same recognition granted to all sovereign species. The right to govern ourselves, defend our territories, and participate in galactic affairs as equals. The chamber fell silent for several long moments. Jake Morrison could hear the subtle hum of the life support systems and the distant sound of air recyclers. He had learned to read these silences during his time here. They usually preceded the delivery of particularly insulting rejections. Counsel Prime Zexani's glowing eyes dimmed slightly as he consulted with his advisors through methods humans could not perceive. When he spoke again, his words carried the finality of absolute judgment. The Galactic Council has reached its decision regarding human requests for sovereign status. After careful consideration of all evidence and arguments presented over the past 3 standard years, we offer humanity protected status as a client species under the direct oversight of the Ceridian Empire. Lisa Carter's face remained perfectly composed, but Jake Morrison saw her fingers tighten almost imperceptibly around the edge of her diplomatic case. Counsel Prime Zexani continued without pause. This arrangement will provide humanity with the guidance necessary for proper development while ensuring galactic stability. Human worlds will be administered by appointed governors who understand the complexities of interstellar civilization. Human populations will be relocated as necessary to support galactic industrial requirements. The translation of Delegate Veltar's response came through as approving clicks and whistles. The Hegemony Alliance supports this generous offer. Primitive species require structure and direction to achieve their potential. Human colonies will provide excellent mining and agricultural output under proper management, added Commander Krypton. The Ceridian Empire accepts administrative responsibility for these territories. Jake Morrison watched Lisa Carter's reaction carefully. In 3 years of negotiations, he had never seen her lose her composure. Even when faced with the most outrageous demands and insulting counteroffers, she had maintained her professional diplomatic demeanor. Lisa Carter stood slowly from her chair. She closed her diplomatic case with a soft click that seemed to echo through the vast chamber. Her movements were precise and unhurried as she tucked the case under her arm. Ambassador Carter, Counsel Prime Zexani said, "Do you require time to consider this generous offer?" Lisa Carter looked up at the ancient being's glowing eyes. When she spoke, her voice carried across the chamber with absolute clarity. Humanity formally withdraws from all diplomatic negotiations with the Galactic Council. Consider all previous agreements null and void. The chamber erupted in what could only be described as alien laughter. Delegate Quinder's aquatic form rippled with amusement. The Hive Collective representatives tilted their heads in perfect unison, their compound eyes glittering. Even the normally stoic luminals pulsed with brighter energy patterns. Council Prime Zexani raised one ethereal hand, and the laughter gradually subsided. Ambassador Carter, primitive species cannot simply withdraw from galactic civilization. You cannot opt out of the natural order. Lisa Carter turned toward the chamber's exit doors. Jake Morrison fell into step beside her, his hand resting casually on his sidearm out of habit rather than any real threat assessment. The human delegation is dismissed, Counsel Prime Zexani declared. When you return to request reasonable terms, the Council will consider reinstating these negotiations. Lisa Carter and Jake Morrison walked through the metal doors without looking back. Neither spoke as they made their way through the winding corridors of the Nexus Prime diplomatic complex. Their footsteps echoed softly against polished floors that had witnessed countless such meetings over millennia. They reached their transport shuttle without incident. Jake Morrison sealed the hatch and initiated launch procedures while Lisa Carter activated their ship's secure communications array. Her message was brief and encrypted with codes that had been prepared years earlier but never used. The transmission lasted only seconds, but Jake Morrison knew it would reach Earth faster than any pursuing alien vessel could follow them. Protocol 7 is now in effect, Lisa Carter said quietly as their shuttle cleared Nexus Prime's atmosphere and jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued its session, confident that the humans would return within days to beg for whatever scraps they might be offered. None of them understood that they had just witnessed the end of an era. 3 weeks passed after the humans walked out of the Galactic Council chambers, and nothing seemed to change across the galaxy. Trade ships moved along their established routes, mining operations continued on distant worlds, and the great machinery of galactic civilization hummed along as it had for thousands of years. Commander Alex Hayes stood in the observation deck of Centauri Hub, watching the steady stream of vessels moving through the trade lanes. The massive space station served as a critical junction point for commerce between human space and the inner galaxy systems. Cargo haulers loaded with rare metals, agricultural products, and manufactured goods passed through the hub every few minutes. Alex had expected some kind of disruption after the diplomatic incident at Nexus Prime, but everything appeared normal. Human workers still reported to their shifts. Human traders still made their scheduled deliveries, and human colonies still sent their resource quotas to their alien overseers. On Kepler 442b, the morning shift alarm sounded at exactly 600 hours as it had every day for the past 8 years. Supervisor Katemo of the Hegemony Alliance waited at the entrance to the tritium mining complex for his human workers to arrive. The reptilian overseer checked his chronometer and tapped his claws against his datapad with growing irritation. First shift consisted of 230 human miners who had never been late in all his years of managing this operation. They lived in the company housing complex exactly 12 minutes away by transport, and they had never failed to arrive on time at 615 hours. Supervisor Katemo contacted the housing complex. The automated system informed him that all residents had departed their quarters at the usual time. At 630 hours, he sent a security team to investigate. The security team found the housing complex completely empty, not abandoned in haste, but methodically cleared out. Personal belongings were gone, but the furnished quarters were clean and undamaged. The transport vehicles sat in their assigned spaces, fully fueled and operational. The humans had simply vanished without using any of the expected methods of departure. Similar reports began filtering in from human settlements across the galaxy. On Ross 128b, the agricultural supervisor arrived at the farming collectives to find the fields being tended by automated systems that had not been there the day before. The machinery was clearly human in design, but more advanced than anything the colonists had previously demonstrated. The human farmers were nowhere to be found, but their crops continued growing under the care of sophisticated robots that seemed to anticipate every need of the plants they tended. The harvest projections remained unchanged, but the workforce had disappeared completely. Delegate Vieltar of the Hegemony Alliance received his first report of missing humans while reviewing trade statistics in his orbital office above the capital world. His assistant, a nervous young Hegemony clerk, presented him with data that made no sense. Sir, 17 human settlements have reported complete population departures in the past week, the clerk said, his forearms trembling slightly as he handed over the data pad.v. Vieltar examined the information with growing confusion. The humans had not requested transport, had not filed departure notices, and had not used any registered vessels to leave their assigned worlds. They had simply stopped being where they were supposed to be. Have they relocated to other human settlements? Vieltar asked. No, sir. Population counts at other human colonies remain unchanged. The missing humans have not appeared anywhere else in monitored space. Vieltar dismissed his assistant and opened a secure communication channel to his intelligence network. Within hours, he learned that the phenomenon was not limited to hegemony territory. Every major alien civilization was reporting similar disappearances of human workers and colonists. Commander Creighton of the Ceridian Defense Force discovered the pattern first. His military analysts had been tracking human vessel movements as a routine security measure, and they noticed something that civilian administrators had missed. Human ships were changing course. Not dramatically, and not in ways that violated their flight plans, but subtly. A cargo hauler would request a minor route adjustment to avoid a supposed navigation hazard. A passenger transport would file an amended destination due to mechanical issues. A mining survey ship would extend its mission to investigate an interesting asteroid field. Each individual change seemed reasonable and normal. Together, they formed a pattern that made Craigton's military instincts flare with alarm. "Show me the current positions of all human vessels in our sensor network," he ordered his tactical officer. The holographic display that materialized showed scattered points of light representing human ships throughout Ceridian space. But when Craigton adjusted the display to show movement patterns over the past 3 weeks, a disturbing picture emerged. The scattered points were not scattered at all. They were converging into formations that had not existed a month earlier. Human ships were gathering in specific locations throughout the galaxy, creating concentrations of vessels in areas that had strategic value. Are they preparing for some kind of coordinated action? The tactical officer asked. Craigton studied the formation patterns with the eye of a career military strategist. The positioning was not random, but it was not obviously aggressive either. The human ships maintained appropriate distances from major alien installations and trade routes. They were not blocking traffic or threatening anyone directly, yet their positions would allow them to disrupt key supply lines and communication networks if they chose to act in coordination. It was the kind of deployment that a competent military commander would use to establish strategic leverage without triggering an immediate response. Send a message to the human vessels requesting clarification of their intentions, Craigton ordered. The responses came back within hours, and they were all identical. Each human captain reported that they were conducting routine operations within legal parameters. Their current positions were temporary and related to normal commercial or survey activities. They requested no special accommodations and posed no threat to galactic peace. The messages were polite, professional, and completely uninformative. The Luminal Trade Consortium attempted to contact Earth directly about delayed shipments of rare Earth elements that were overdue from several human mining operations. The message traveled through the usual diplomatic channels and reached the Terran communication array that served as the interface between human space and the galactic network. The response came back within minutes, but it was not what anyone expected. An automated message played in multiple languages, delivered by a pleasant synthetic voice that conveyed no emotion or urgency. The Terran Federation is currently restructuring its diplomatic and trade relationships. All inquiries will be addressed when appropriate. Thank you for your patience during this transition period. Council Member Quinder of the Aquatic Coalition raised the first formal alarm during an emergency session of his home government. His aquatic form rippled with agitation as he addressed his fellow delegates through the water-filled chamber of their underwater capital. Long-range sensors are detecting unusual energy signatures from human space, he reported. The readings are unlike anything in our databases. Not weapon signatures that we recognize, but something entirely new and unprecedented. The Aquatic Coalition sensor networks were among the most sensitive in the galaxy, capable of detecting gravitational fluctuations and exotic particle emissions across vast distances. Their data showed massive energy expenditures occurring throughout human territory, but the signatures did not match any known technology. Could they be conducting some kind of industrial project? One delegate asked. The energy levels are consistent with large-scale manufacturing or construction, Quinder replied. But the spectral analysis suggests technologies that should not exist according to our understanding of human capabilities. When news of the sensor readings reached the Galactic Council, Council Prime Zexani convened an urgent session to address what he still considered a minor administrative problem. The ancient ethereal being listened to reports from each member species with growing impatience. The humans lacked the technological base to pose any real threat to galactic stability, he declared. These reports likely reflect measurement errors or natural phenomena that happen to coincide with human territory. But privately, several council members began reaching out to their intelligence networks for more detailed information about what the humans were actually doing in their isolated corner of the galaxy. The silence from humanity had become deafening. And for the first time in galactic history, that silence was beginning to make some very powerful beings nervous. The Galactic Emergency Broadcast System had not been used for official communications in over 50 years. Most species had forgotten it even existed, remembering it only as an ancient relic from the early days of interstellar civilization, when wars between species were common and immediate. Communication could mean the difference between survival and extinction. On Tuesday morning, Galactic Standard Time, every active communication device in known space received the same signal simultaneously. From the most advanced luminal energy arrays to the simplest Sauridian military radios, all receivers locked onto a transmission that overrode their normal programming and displayed the same image. Human woman sat behind a simple metal desk in what appeared to be a laboratory. Behind her, complex machinery hummed quietly, while holographic displays showed data that most viewers could not interpret. She wore a plain white lab coat with no decorations or rank insignia. Her gray hair was pulled back in a practical style, and her brown eyes looked directly into the camera with calm confidence. "My name is Dr. Rachel Stone," she began, her voice clear and steady. "I served as head of xenobiology research for the Terran Federation until 3 weeks ago. I am speaking to you today to explain what humanity has been doing during our years of diplomatic negotiations with the Galactic Council." Across the galaxy, alien leaders dropped their daily activities to watch the unprecedented broadcast. In the Sauridian Military Command Center, Commander Craigton ordered his staff to record and analyze every second of the transmission. On the luminal home world, energy beings gathered in their collective consciousness chambers to process the information together. Dr. Stone continued without pause. For the past 10 years, while our diplomats engaged in what appeared to be futile negotiations for recognition and sovereignty, humanity has been conducting the largest covert research operation in known galactic history. She gestured to the machinery behind her, and the camera angle shifted to show laboratory equipment that seemed to incorporate technology from dozens of different species. Every human worker on every alien world, every human trader visiting alien stations, every human diplomat in every meeting has been collecting data according to a coordinated plan developed by our best scientific minds. The holographic displays behind Dr. Stone shifted to show biological samples, technological specifications, and detailed schematics. We have gathered biological data from all 12 council species. We have recorded detailed specifications of your technologies, mapped your military deployments, cataloged your resource locations, analyzed your political structures, and developed comprehensive psychological profiles of your leadership. Council Prime Zexani watched the broadcast from his private chambers on Nexus Prime. The ancient, ethereal being had dismissed his advisors and was processing the information alone, his glowing eyes dimming as he began to understand the implications of what he was hearing. Dr. Stone activated another set of displays. We have identified and mapped every critical infrastructure point, supply line, and population center of all council member species. Our analysis teams have developed detailed models of your social structures, economic dependencies, and cultural pressure points. The images behind her showed star charts with alien systems marked in precise detail. Trade routes were highlighted in different colors, with human annotations identifying choke points and vulnerable nodes. Military installations were marked with assessment data about their defensive capabilities and strategic importance. While you viewed us as primitive beings suitable only for manual labor, we were learning everything there was to know about you. Dr. Stone said, "Every piece of technology you allowed us to operate, every facility you permitted us to work in, every conversation you had in our presence contributed to our understanding of your civilizations." The broadcast then shifted to show footage that made every alien viewer freeze in shock. Massive construction facilities, hidden in asteroid fields, showed human workers, building vessels that incorporated design elements from multiple species. Shipyards concealed within nebulae displayed production lines, creating craft that seemed to bend space around them in ways that defied known physics. "We have reverse-engineered and improved upon your technologies," Dr. Stone explained as the camera showed human engineers working with machinery that combined luminal energy manipulation, ceridian metallurgy, and aquatic coalition sensor systems. More importantly, we have developed specific counters to every weapon system, defensive measure, and tactical doctrine employed by Council species. Commander Crichton felt his blood run cold as he watched footage of human test facilities, where mock-ups of Ceridian battle cruisers were being systematically destroyed by weapons that produced no visible energy discharge. The mighty ships that had dominated galactic space for centuries simply ceased to exist when touched by whatever force the humans had developed. Dr. Stone turned back to face the camera directly. "But our most significant discovery came not from studying your current technologies, but from learning about your history. We discovered something that the Galactic Council has been hiding from its own member species for millennia." The holographic displays behind her changed to show ancient star charts and archaeological data. "We found the progenitor archives, the complete repositories of knowledge left behind by the galaxy's first spacefaring civilization." While Council species fought over fragments of translated texts and partial technological specifications, we learned to read the original progenitor language. The implications of this revelation sent shockwaves through every alien government. The progenitor ruins scattered throughout the galaxy had been picked clean over thousands of years, their secrets jealously guarded by those few species advanced enough to interpret even basic concepts from the ancient technology. We now have access to complete progenitor databases, Dr. Stone continued. Weapon systems, defensive technologies, space manipulation techniques, and knowledge that makes current galactic technology appear primitive by comparison. We have built our new fleet using these specifications, adapted for human physiology and tactical doctrine. The footage behind her showed human vessels that seemed to exist partially outside normal space, their hulls rippling with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. These were not improvements on existing designs, but entirely new concepts that operated according to principles that current galactic science could not explain. "You had your chance for peaceful coexistence," Dr. Stone said, her voice remaining calm and professional despite the devastating nature of her words. "Our diplomats offered you partnership, mutual respect, and cooperative development of this galaxy's resources. You chose exploitation instead." She stood up from her desk and walked closer to the camera. "You believed that superior technology and longer histories gave you the right to treat other species as resources to be managed rather than as equals to be respected. You were wrong about our capabilities, wrong about our intentions, and wrong about the consequences of your choices." The broadcast began to show real-time footage from human fleets positioned throughout galactic space. The vessels that alien sensors had detected but could not properly identify were revealed to be warships of unprecedented capability, each one positioned to simultaneously target multiple critical points in alien infrastructure. "Now you will discover why humans do not negotiate from a position of weakness twice," Dr. Stone concluded. We tried to earn your respect through diplomacy and cooperation. Since that approach failed, we will demonstrate why respect is something you should have offered freely." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving every alien civilization in the galaxy staring at blank screens while trying to process the magnitude of what they had just learned. Humanity had not simply withdrawn from negotiations. They had revealed that they possessed the power to reshape galactic civilization according to their own terms, and they were no longer interested in asking for permission. Emergency sessions convened across all 12 Council worlds within hours of Dr. Stone's broadcast ending. For the first time in recorded galactic history, ancient enemies put aside territorial disputes and trade disagreements to address a single threat that none of them had seen coming. The Ceridian Defense Council met in their underground war chambers on Reptilia Prime, while the Luminal Collective gathered their energy forms in the vast resonance halls of their home system. The Aquatic Coalition assembled their leadership in the deepest trenches of their ocean world, and the Hive Collective synchronized their thoughts across 17 planets simultaneously. Admiral Craigdun stood before a holographic display, showing human fleet positions throughout Ceridian space. His military analysts had worked through the night to update their intelligence estimates, and the results were more disturbing than anything they had faced in 5 centuries of galactic dominance. "Report," Craigton ordered his chief tactical officer. "Sir, we have confirmed the presence of human vessels at the edge of every major system in our territory," the officer replied, his voice tight with barely controlled fear. "Long-range scans reveal ship configurations that do not match anything in our databases." The holographic display zoomed in on one of the human vessels. The ship appeared to exist in a state of constant motion, even while stationary, its hull shifting and rippling as if made of liquid metal. Energy readings fluctuated in patterns that made no sense according to known physics. "What are their weapons capabilities?" Craigton asked. "Unknown, sir. We cannot detect any conventional weapon systems, but our sensors register massive energy, potentials that seem to be contained within the hull structure itself. The ships appear to be weapons rather than vessels carrying weapons." Craigton dismissed his staff and opened a secure communication channel to the other military leaders of the Council species. Within minutes, he was connected to a conference that included the greatest strategic minds in the galaxy. General Zorth of the Hive Collective spoke first, his words transmitted through the shared consciousness of billions of connected minds. "Our analysis confirms human vessels positioned for maximum strategic impact. They are not preparing to attack us. They are already in position to destroy us." Commander Velnax of the Luminal Defense Corps pulsed with agitated energy patterns. "Our long-range sensors detect gravitational anomalies around human ships. They appear to be manipulating space-time itself as a defensive measure." "Or an offensive one," Craigton replied grimly. "If they can alter local gravity fields, they can collapse our supply lines without firing a shot." The conference was interrupted by an emergency transmission that reached every alien government simultaneously. President Nina Foster appeared. On their screens, speaking from the bridge of a human vessel that hung in space near the Galactic Council's central station. President Foster wore a simple dark blue uniform with no military decorations or symbols of rank. Her brown hair was tied back professionally, and her green eyes looked directly into the camera with the same calm confidence that Dr. Stone had displayed. "Leaders of the Galactic Council," she began, "I am President Nina Foster of the Terran Federation. I am contacting you to present certain facts that you need to understand before making any decisions about how to respond to our withdrawal from diplomatic negotiations." Behind her, the bridge of her ship showed human officers working at stations that incorporated technology from multiple alien species. The equipment operated silently and efficiently, with holographic displays showing real-time data from across the galaxy. "We have prepared detailed files on every member species of the Council," President Foster continued. These files contain precise information about your military capabilities, economic dependencies, population distributions, and resource requirements. The display behind her shifted to show data charts with information that made every alien leader who saw them feel exposed and vulnerable. Population counts were accurate to the individual. Military asset locations were marked with precision that suggested human observers had been present during classified briefings. Economic data included trade secrets that were supposed to be known only to the highest levels of each government. More importantly, President Foster said, we have identified the specific pressure points that would cause each of your civilizations to collapse without requiring direct military confrontation. Admiral Crichton watched in horror as the display showed detailed plans for disrupting Ceridian society, trade embargoes that would create mass starvation within months, communication disruptions that would prevent coordination between military units, resource shortages that would trigger civil wars between competing factions. For the Luminal Collective, President Foster continued, we have developed frequency generators that would disrupt your energy matrix coherence. For the Aquatic Coalition, we have identified the precise gravitational adjustments needed to destabilize your tidal systems and destroy your cities. Each alien leader saw their civilization's greatest vulnerabilities laid out with scientific precision. The humans had not simply studied alien technology and military capabilities. They had analyzed the fundamental weaknesses that held each society together and developed methods to exploit those weaknesses with surgical accuracy. For the Hive Collective, President Foster said, we have created signal jammers that would sever the neural connections between your individual units, reducing your species to uncoordinated insects within hours. General Zorth felt something that his species had never experienced before: fear, the shared consciousness that made the Hive Collective the most efficient civilization in the galaxy could be turned into their greatest weakness by beings who understood how their communication systems functioned. President Foster paused to let the implications of her words sink in before continuing. We want to be very clear about something. We are not threatening to use any of these capabilities. We are simply presenting them as facts, the same way one might discuss the weather or the orbital mechanics of your home systems. The casual tone with which she discussed the potential destruction of entire civilizations was more terrifying than any angry declaration of war could have been. She spoke about ending billions of lives with the same professional detachment that a scientist might use to describe a laboratory experiment. The reason we are sharing this information is to help you understand the new reality of galactic politics, President Foster explained. The age of strong species exploiting weaker ones has ended. We are not ending it through conquest or intimidation. We are ending it by demonstrating that the concepts of strong and weak were based on incomplete information. Council Prime Zexani attempted to rally the other species for a coordinated response, but Admiral Crichton's tactical analysis revealed the futility of any military action. Human ships were positioned not just to defend themselves, but to simultaneously cripple every council member's ability to project power beyond their home systems. The panic spread when long-range communications began failing across council space, not being jammed in any way that their technicians could detect or counter, but simply ceasing to function. Human ships were systematically dismantling the galactic communication network's relay stations with tools that left no trace of their presence. You have 72 hours to respond to humanity's terms for establishing new diplomatic relationships, President Foster announced as her broadcast began to conclude. These terms will be transmitted through the few communication channels that we will leave operational for your use. The transmission ended with footage of human vessels moving through space in perfect coordination, their alien-derived technologies, allowing them to appear and disappear at will while maintaining positions that could threaten every major alien. Installations simultaneously dot as council chambers across the galaxy descended into chaos. A single message appeared on every functional screen in every government facility. Failure to respond within the specified time frame will be interpreted as a declaration of hostility toward the Terran Federation and will be answered accordingly. For the first time in galactic history, the strongest civilizations in known space found themselves completely at the mercy of a species they had dismissed as primitive only weeks earlier. The response came in 71 hours and 58 minutes after President Foster's ultimatum. Every member of the Galactic Council had voted unanimously to grant humanity not just recognition as a sovereign species, but full membership with permanent council status and veto power over any decisions affecting human space or interests. Admiral Jake Morrison, wearing the insignia of the Terran Federation fleet, led a human delegation through the same metal doors of the Nexus Prime Council, chamber where Ambassador Carter had been dismissed just 4 months earlier. The irony was not lost on any of the beings present, though the circumstances had changed so dramatically that the earlier meeting seemed like ancient history. The council chamber had been physically altered to accommodate the new reality. Raised platforms that had once elevated alien species above the center floor had been lowered, and a circular table now occupied the space where human delegates had once sat in isolation. The symbolism was clear to everyone present. Council Prime Zexani no longer sat on his elevated throne. The ancient ethereal being had taken a position at the circular table alongside representatives from all member species. His glowing eyes were dimmer than they had been during the previous negotiations, and his voice carried none of its former authority when he spoke. The Galactic Council formally recognizes the Terran Federation as a sovereign member species with full rights and privileges, he announced. We welcome humanity to participation in galactic governance and look forward to productive cooperation in all future endeavors. Admiral Morrison nodded acknowledgement but did not respond immediately. He activated a holographic projector that displayed documents prepared by the Terran Federation's legal department. The terms and conditions for humanity's participation in galactic affairs were unlike anything that had ever been presented to the Council. The Terran Federation accepts membership in the Reformed Galactic Assembly, Morrison said, emphasizing the new name that humanity had chosen for the governing body. However, our participation is conditional upon the implementation of new standards for interspecies relations throughout the galaxy. The holographic display showed a comprehensive framework for ethical governance that would fundamentally reshape how advanced species interacted with developing civilizations. The days of client species and protective oversight were officially ended, replaced by requirements for genuine equality and mutual respect in all diplomatic relationships. Any species that wishes to maintain trade relationships with the Terran Federation must demonstrate ethical treatment of all sentient beings within their territories. Admiral Morrison continued, We have developed monitoring systems that will verify compliance with these standards on an ongoing basis. Commander Craigton of the Ceridian Defense Force shifted uncomfortably on his heating platform. His species had built their galactic influence on the exploitation of weaker civilizations, and the new requirements would force them to completely restructure their approach to interstellar relations. What happens to species that refuse to comply with these new standards? Delegate Veltar asked, his forearms trembling slightly as he spoke. Admiral Morrison's expression remained neutral as he replied, Species that choose not to meet these ethical requirements will find themselves excluded from human trade networks and technological exchanges. They will also discover that their access to advanced technologies developed from progenitor archives has been permanently revoked. The implications were clear to everyone in the chamber. Humanity now controlled access to the most advanced technology in the galaxy, and they were prepared to use that control to enforce their vision of how civilized species should behave toward one another. Dr. Rachel Stone, now serving as Minister of Xenological Affairs for the Terran Federation, stepped forward to address the next phase of the new galactic order. She activated a second holographic display, showing cultural exchange programs that had already begun implementation on several worlds. We are establishing educational partnerships with member species to promote understanding and cooperation between different forms of intelligent life, she explained. These programs will help younger generations move beyond the hierarchical thinking that has dominated galactic civilization for millennia. The cultural exchanges were already showing remarkable results. Young luminals were learning to appreciate the individual creativity that humans valued, while young humans were discovering the benefits of collective consciousness that the hive species had perfected. Sauridian youth were questioning why their society had accepted the exploitation of other species as natural and inevitable. Council Member Quinder of the Aquatic Coalition asked the question that every alien leader had been dreading. What role will human military forces play in enforcing these new standards? Admiral Morrison's response was both reassuring and terrifying. Human military forces will serve as peacekeepers only when requested by member species, or when violations of interspecies ethics threaten galactic stability. We have no interest in conquest or territorial expansion beyond our current holdings. The reassurance came with an unspoken reminder that humanity possessed the capability to intervene anywhere in the galaxy at any time, whether invited or not. Their advanced progenitor-based technology made them the ultimate arbiters of galactic law, a responsibility they had claimed not through conquest, but through superior preparation and intelligence. The formal proceedings continued for several hours as the framework for the new galactic order was established in detail. Trade agreements were restructured to ensure fair compensation for all participating species. Military cooperation protocols were established to prevent conflicts before they could escalate into wars. Scientific research partnerships were created to share knowledge more equitably among all member civilizations. Ambassador Lisa Carter, now serving as Director of Interspecies Relations, was given the honor of closing the historic session. She stood at the circular table where all species now met as equals, looking around at the alien faces that had once dismissed her people as primitives unworthy of consideration. This galaxy has learned an important lesson over the past few months. She began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Respect cannot be demanded or taken by force. It must be earned through competence, wisdom, and ethical behavior. She paused to let her words sink in before continuing. You taught humanity that in this galaxy, power determines policy and strength determines status. The difference between us is that we learned how to acquire power not for its own sake, but as a tool for building something better than what we found. The circular table had become a symbol of the new galactic reality. No species sat higher than others. No civilization claimed inherent superiority over their neighbors, and no government could make decisions that affected others without their participation and consent. You feared us because you expected us to become like you, Ambassador Carter concluded. You thought we would use our newfound strength to take what we wanted by force, the same way you had always done. Instead, we chose to use our capabilities to create a galaxy where strength serves justice rather than ambition. The session ended with the formal signing of the Nexus Accords, a document that established the principles that would guide galactic civilization for generations to come. As the human delegation prepared to depart, they did so not as conquerors leaving a defeated enemy, but as partners in a cooperative venture that would benefit all intelligent life in the galaxy. Human ships began departing from their strategic positions throughout alien space, returning to their territories with the quiet confidence of beings who had proven their point without needing to fire a shot. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again, and more importantly, would never again have reason to fear them. Humanity had demonstrated that true power lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to build something worth preserving. The age of exploitation had ended, replaced by an era of cooperation that promised to unlock the full potential of galactic civilization for the first time in recorded history.